Greetings all you movie junkies and entertainment lovers, and welcome to another ranked video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Predator franchise. The Predator franchise is honestly probably one of my personal favorite science fiction franchises, but it definitely has had a bit of an interesting history with various different incarnations over the years, with an 8th entry currently in the works. So I thought we would go back and go through the franchise and rank all the films from worst to best. And as I always point out with all my other lists, it's important to remember this is just my personal list of the way that I would rank the Predator films. So starting in at number 7, we have Alien vs Predator Requiem. This of course was the sequel to Alien vs Predator. It's pretty terrible. It's honestly the only film of the franchise that I personally think is pretty bad. Setting on Earth in modern time could have been an opportunity to do some kind of interesting things with it, but honestly this movie is just so dull, and it spends so much time just meandering and not doing anything interesting. And then when interesting things do finally happen and actually do get some fights, they're so dark and so shaky cam that you can't even really see what the hell's going on. Of stuff in this where they kill kids and pregnant women and stuff, where they're trying to be really ballsy, just doesn't work at all. So that's Alien vs Predator Requiem at number 7. And then at number 6 we have 2018's The Predator. This of course was the second to most recent attempt to reboot the franchise. I didn't think was quite as bad as a lot of people made out to be, but I didn't think it was particularly great either. It definitely felt like they were trying to go back to a lot of the things that made the first film work in particular. And of course, for anybody who doesn't know, Shane Black actually was in the original film. So in a way it was kind of fitting to have him, come back to, direct this entry. Definitely some fun elements to this. I think honestly, if you just kind of watch this as a very regular, action blockbuster science fiction movie, it is pretty fun. But as a Predator film, ultimately it just ends up lacking, and there was a lot of elements of this that just didn't work to me. I really just hated the whole Predator dogs thing. I mean, it could have been interesting, but then the way that they befriend one of them, and then it's like what are we doing with this? I just don't understand what they were trying to go for with that at all. I guess it was supposed to be funny or comedic or whatever, but ultimately it's a film that I think would have been a lot better had they relied a little less on CGI and went for more of a slightly grounded, more horror feel to it. It could have been really something, but it's still pretty good for what it is. So that's The Predator at number 6. And then at number 5, we have Alien vs Predator. This one is definitely very divided when it comes to the franchise, but to me, this is definitely without a shadow of a doubt a lot better than the second film. Honestly, I really don't understand what it is that people really hate about this one, because at the end of the day, it pretty much delivers what you expect it to be, which is an Alien vs Predator movie, and well, the aliens and the Predators fight. Plot, the absolute best that it could have been, maybe not, but again, for what they were trying to do with it, I think it's a pretty fun movie. It's not maybe as super gory as perhaps it could have been, but again, for me, I've never really been that much of a gore hound anyway. That's not exactly what I go into these movies looking for, and I personally thought that, when it was the fights, which is, what we watch these movies for, these versus movies, is because you want to see these, these fights of these, horror icons. I thought the fights were awesome. They were pretty much everything I wanted them to be, and the rest of the movie surrounding it wasn't really that bad either. So it's not great, but it's not terrible either. So that's Alien vs Predator at number 5. And then at number 4, we have Predators from 2010, the first attempt to reboot the franchise. Pretty mixed amongst the fans. A lot of people don't seem to really like this one. I personally think this one is great. I've always really liked this one a lot, and I think as far as reboots go, I thought this did a really great job of capturing a lot of what worked so well in the first two movies, whilst also, adding to it. And, one of the really cool things about this one was that this was, we finally get to see, multiple Predators and stuff. I love the different designs of the different Predators and how they kind of, had different characterizations to each of them. I think maybe some of the reasons that people were disappointed was because because I believe in the trailers they initially made it seem like there was going to be like a ton of predators, when in the movie there's only about like 3 or 4. If that's what you expected, I think honestly, I think your expectations were very unrealistic. I mean, the fact is, you know, getting 3 or 4 predators is still more than what we had before this anyway. It does of course incorporate a lot of CGI elements, but there's a lot of really great practical effects and stuff that was done in this one as well. So I thought this was a really great fun movie. I don't really understand what it is that people who disliked it wanted out of it. Is it the greatest film of the franchise? No, but honestly I thought it was quite a lot better than some of the other previously mentioned entries. So that's Predators at number 4. And then at number 3 we have the most recent entry in the franchise, Prey. Honestly, just a really great, solid, fine example of how to do a reboot correctly. Completely different time period, having a very different tone, look, and feel from the previous movies, but it still had a lot of those elements that made the first 2 movies work so well. Some really great use of practical effects. The Predator itself in this one, honestly, I just absolutely love the look in it. And I did really kind of appreciate how, because this is, you know, going back in time quite a ways, that we do see almost kind of a slightly more primitive version of the Predator technology. But again, this is still the Predator franchise, so obviously we gotta have, you know, we've got to have the traditional things that we associate with the Predators. But I just thought that the way that this one was done was absolutely excellent. I really don't understand why this was not a theatrical release. It shocked me that they decided to, after watching it, that they decided to go straight to streaming. Some people even went as far as to say that they preferred this to the original film. Personally, I don't think it's quite that good, but again, as far as reboots go, especially in recent years, this was, you know, a fun example of how to do it right. That's Prey at number 3. And then at number 2, we of course have Predator 2. Some people might put Predator 2 a little bit lower on their list, but for me personally, I've always felt that this movie was pretty close to being almost on par with that original film. Pretty much carried most of the great elements that were in the previous film, but again carried it over into the, you know, city aspect of it, which I thought honestly they did a really great job with. I thought, you know, Danny Glover was really great in this one. A lot of the practical effects and stuff are great in this. And I just really love how sort of the mystery kind of unravels. Again, it's not quite on the same quality as the first film, but again, this to me just felt like a really solid, you know, very faithful continuation of that first movie. And again, some people might put it a bit lower on the list, but for me, I think that this one, you know, of all the other films, retained the most of what, you know, I really loved about that first movie, which is why I put it so high up on the list. And that ending, man, that ending is absolutely fantastic. So that's Predator 2 at number 2. And then of course, this should be nobody's surprise, we have Predator at number 1. I think what makes it so great is sort of the tension of it, the way that it builds up to that epic finale, that ending. The fact that it's all these guys who, you know, are pretty much, you know, not afraid of anything, and the fact that they're getting killed off one by one by this mysterious creature, this mysterious alien hunter. And the more that they reveal about him and the way that they build up to that reveal is just honestly absolutely fantastic. And the music in it is great. Atmosphere of it is great, and it is just, you know, a really solid, just wonderfully effective, wonderfully entertaining, probably one of the best sort of action science fiction horror movies of the 1980s. It's just an absolute blast, and it's still easily the best film of the franchise. So that's the original at number 1. So there you go guys, that was the way that I would rank the Predator franchise. Feel free to jump in the comments down below and let me know how you would rank the Predators franchise. And until next time, be sure to consume as much entertainment as humanly possible, and I will see you in the next video.